Defiant Nigerian youths remain on the streets for a ninth day in protest against police brutality. At least 6 people die in protests in Sudan's port city of Suakin. Plus, election campaigns begin in Côte d'Ivoire ahead of the October 31st presidential poll. Hello and welcome to the program. I'm Teniola Shobowale. As the EndSARS protest continues for another day, protesters in Lagos State again blocked the Lagos-Ibadan Expressway, causing gridlock here in Nigeria. Motorists were prevented from moving on both sides of the expressway as traffic spilled to different parts of Ikeja. In the meantime, armed thugs moved into the Alausa area to disrupt the gathering of EndSARS protesters, forcing them to move away from the scene. Some of them were reportedly injured. A second group also blocked the Lekki toll gate area, preventing workers from getting to their offices. Meanwhile, EndSARS protesters also marching against police brutality took to the streets in Anambra, Delta, Kogi, and Plateau states.
Another day, another massive protest by the EndSARS marchers who are back at the House of Assembly Drive in Alausa area of Lagos to resume their agitations. More young people join the movement, strengthening the gathering as they sing solidarity songs, indicating that they're not backing down anytime soon. But the protesters suffered a temporary setback as armed thugs moved into the area, forcing them away. Undeterred, they later reconvened to continue with the business they came here for.
Sponsored thugs from the government to disrupt this protest so that they can bring in the soldiers and say they are trying to quell the uprising. But I tell you, Nigerian people, this is not a joke. We are going to take our country back. This is not going to stop us.
Meanwhile, the action continues at the Lekki toll gate area, also in Lagos State, which remains barricaded by the anti-SARS protesters for a 4th day. Already, business activities in the area appear to be coming to a halt as those who work in various organizations are said to be unable to make their way to work.
If you're not doing the business they're doing right now, you're not doing any business right now on the island.
Justice! In the southeast, hundreds of youths protest in Awka, the Anambra state capital, marching to the government house and blocking the expressway with tires, demanding for the prosecution of a former SARS commander over alleged killing of several youths and extortion of residents. At the government house, the secretary to the state government commends their peaceful conduct.
This demonstration has been very peaceful.
Protesters in Warri Delta State in the south joined the protest once more, moving from Efuru roundabout through Refinery Road to other parts of Warri chanting the EndSARS songs and asking the authorities to implement the 5-point demand of the movement.
We're asking for a reform generally. Release all the protesters that have been arrested. Bring the culprits to book. Everyone that killed somebody should be brought to book.
Meanwhile, in Kogi State, north-central Nigeria, a peaceful anti-SARS protest is taken to the state capital in Lokoja, where protesters appeal to Governor Yahaya Bello to stop police brutality. They say that in spite of the disbandment of SARS, some operatives are still operating on major highways and local government areas within the state.
Went into operation yesterday and still harassed some of the youth in Nayimba. And in Lokoja today, this morning, the same thing repeated itself. And we can't stand and be looking because
police brutality.
A voice of a comrade in the process of oppression is an oppressive voice.
The governor, who was presiding over the state executive council meeting, left to attend to them, cautioning the youth against losing a battle they have already won.
When you want to take leadership, you behave yourself in such a manner that you can be trusted to be given that leadership position. If you don't, nobody will ever take you seriously.
Youths in Plateau State also continue their protest against police brutality as they block the old airport roundabout, a major highway linking the state to the northeast from Abuja and the southern parts of the country. The protesters say they are resolved to stay on the streets across the country until police brutality is stopped and victims of extrajudicial killings get justice.
Let's get more on the situation now from our correspondent, Olu Phillips, who is at the Lekki toll gate. Olu, bring us up to speed on what's happening in your location.
Taniola, thank you very much. We have taken a bit of a quiet position away from where the crowd is to help you make more sense of why a lot of these young people are still agitating and protesting. But this time around, I'm going to ask another protester to tell us ideologically what exactly is going on here. For you, end to end, what is this whole thing about?
Well, this is people tired of oppression. Ending SARS is not just about SARS, but the oppression that the Nigerian youth have been experiencing under this government. People have the right to air their grievances, and they're doing so peacefully. Constitutionally, Nigerians have the right to assemble and protest in a peaceful fashion, which you are seeing. I've seen so many young people that have volunteered, supplying, drinks, water, food, cleaning up rubbish. This is the kind of ideology that Nigerians want to push for Nigeria, that we're working together in sync.
But for how long is this going to happen? I mean, cars parked to this side, people shouting and protesting here, and other parts of Lagos, other parts of the country. What exactly, how is this going to tie up together?
The honest answer is, the answer to your question is, how long is a piece of string? Nigerians are used to being lied to. They are used to people promising them things and not delivering, as you've just seen. People want to see evidence of these promises and the things that the government is saying they're going to do. When they begin to see those things, people will now start to have that confidence that yes, our voices are being heard, and not just being heard, but that the things that we are protesting on are being implemented, and that there's a strategy. Don't just tell us you are going to do something. Let us see a clear, defined time frame and a plan that you plan to implement. There are many things that Nigerians have been crying over for a long time, and that is why we are here. When we see evidence of those things being acted on, people will disperse.
All right, Taniola, you've heard her say it very loud and clear. This is what it is about. It's about ideology. It's about pushing the envelopes and making sure that government listens to them in the manner and in the language they want to speak and they want to hear. It's back to you, Tani.
All right then, Olu Phillips, thank you so much for bringing us up to speed on the situation and getting some perspectives from the protesters on the ground. Well, still on the EndSARS protest over in South Africa, hundreds of Nigerian youths living in the country have marched to the Nigerian consulate in Johannesburg. More marches by other groups are in the offing, but today's protests are demanding, among other things, the release of many people allegedly detained by SARS in the past 2 or 3 years. Our South Africa Bureau Chief, Betty Dibia, has more.
The protesters told us, yes, they've heard the government and all the changes and promises of changes, but they are not backing down just yet. Earlier, they had overrun the security gates of the Nigerian Consulate General in Johannesburg, and the outgoing Consul General himself came to listen to what they had to say.
I am here to serve you, even if it will be. So please, when you come for this type of give me a time so that it will not be without.
I listened to them. I said, SARS has ended, and they say, what was SWAT? I said, SWAT is only in the name. It's whatever it is. They may not even know exactly what it means. But the truth is that we must be able to have a tactical unit that will deal with crime. Crime is a big problem in Nigeria, and we must be able to deal with such crimes. So whether it is SWAT or anything, a tactical unit will still be available to deal with crime. And as most of the 5-point demands that they have raised to government have all been acceded to, and the processes of engaging them in all these things are on.
Away from the very energetic crowd, we spoke to one of the protest leaders, Bayo Fabusui, who says they're adding to the list of demands already given by the protesters in Nigeria.
All the people that have been arrested by SARS over the last 2-3 years, they're innocent people still there in the jail. They must go release all of them. Then the second thing we want is, when you say you're reforming SARS, don't just put the same criminals in another unit in the police force. You must bring all of them to the unit where they used to work, and you bring the youth out. We'll come and point to them. Those who have harassed us, those who have extorted people, they must point them, and they must all go to jail. When people are criminal, when they use state ammunitions to exploit people and to arrest them and kill them, you cannot say you want to protect their job because they have families.
The protesters have promised to return on Monday, the 19th of October, should they not begin to see the changes they are demanding from government. Meanwhile, other groups have also planned marches with the same hashtags. From Johannesburg, South Africa, Betty Dibia, Channels Television News.
To other stories now, the United Nations has called for a ceasefire on the war in northwestern and southwestern provinces of the Republic of Cameroon. This follows the increasing number of refugees seeking asylum in Takum local government area of Taraba State, northeast Nigeria, and a visit by the UN resident and humanitarian coordinator in Nigeria for on-the-spot assessment. The visit is sequel to a report by Channels Television on the state of refugees seeking asylum in Nigeria early this year and efforts made by the state government to salvage the situation.
As of March 2020, over 7,000 refugees had crossed from the Republic of Cameroon and seeking asylum in 5 local government areas of Taraba State. 7 months down the line, the number has doubled to 14,000, with Takum local government the closest to Republic of Cameroon, hosting over 4,000 of the Cameroonian refugees' population. The refugees have enjoyed the support of the state government, host communities, and the T.Y. Danjuma Foundation, but are pleading for more interventions, especially cash-based interventions, freedom from harassment, rape, and fair treatment.
They have what we call their bunk. They will lock us inside. If you don't pay 4,000, 10,000, of which I have been a victim of it. So the embarrassment is too much. The police, what we are really free from, only the host community, even though we have rape cases, we handle it in our local way. So we are really pleading that people ahead of there should come to our help.
The United Nations Resident and Humanitarian Unit arrives Kashimbila community, one of the communities hosting the refugees, as part of the efforts towards addressing their plight. Led by the coordinator, Mr. Edward Kalon, who calls for a ceasefire among warring provinces to inhibit the situation from deteriorating. He insists on adopting measures to transform the humanitarian situation into a developmental opportunity.
I call on the government of Nigeria and also on the government of Cameroon to do whatever they can to find a solution to your problem. And let me tell you, there are no humanitarian solutions to humanitarian problems. And my advocacy has been very, very clear. The only solution to your problem is peace.
On its part, the state government stated that their upkeep is overwhelming and has stretched its budget.
So when they came, these are the challenges that we are facing. How to feed them, to clothe them, and then give them shelter. This becomes our big problem in the local government. But by the good work of our rescue captain, the governor of Taraba State, he started up immediately. We solved most of these problems from all the villages I mentioned in my speech.
Over 14,000 Cameroonian citizens that fled the Amazonian crisis in Cameroon Republic are seeking asylum in 5 local government areas sharing boundaries with the Republic of Cameroon.
Still to come on the program. Amidst the coronavirus pandemic, the world marks Global Hand Washing Day. Please stay with us. Thanks for staying with us on Network Africa. Elsewhere in West Africa, election campaigns have begun in Côte d'Ivoire ahead of a presidential election scheduled for October the 31st. This comes after opposition parties called for civil disobedience to protest against an attempt by the incumbent Alassane Ouattara to seek a 3rd term. They say the bid is illegal. Thousands of people rallied against the move in the commercial capital Abidjan on Saturday. There are 4 candidates in all, key opposition figures, including a former president and former prime minister, have been disqualified. Mr. Ouattara became president 10 years ago in a disputed election that was marred by violence. Liane de Bassompierre is a journalist in Côte d'Ivoire. She joins us from Bouaké, where President Alassane Ouattara is to hold his first rally tomorrow. Liane, this is a highly disputed election. More than a dozen people have been killed in violent protests in recent weeks against President Ouattara's 3rd term bid. With the president's campaign kicking off tomorrow in Bouaké, is there likely to be any attempt to reach out to protesters for a resolution to ensure there is no violence?
President Alassane Ouattara will likely call on people gathered there tomorrow to go to this election peacefully, to avoid any confrontation. We have seen in recent weeks that there's not been that much of an uptake following the opposition's call for a civil disobedience campaign, but that could change very quickly. The opposition candidates, Pascal Affi-N'Guesson, as well as Henry Konan-Bédié, held an emergency press conference today calling for boycotts of the electoral process. They've already asked for a postponement of the vote, saying that the process is illegal.
Well, the Constitutional Council has cleared President Ouattara and 3 other candidates to run in this election, including 86-year-old former President Henry Konan-Bédié. With Election Day fast approaching, how are these candidates, the other candidates preparing, especially with now the opposition calling for a boycott?
Alassane Ouattara will start his campaign in Bouaké on Friday. KKB, who is an independent candidate who was formerly part of the PDCI, will start his campaign in Divo on Saturday. As for the 2 other candidates, they are not participating in this electoral process. They've held a joint press conference today saying that they are actively calling on their supporters to boycott the electoral process, saying that it is indeed illegal. They will be having another press conference at 9 tomorrow morning to give further details on what they want the supporters to be doing.
Well, Leanne, this election is happening amidst a global pandemic. Côte d'Ivoire has recorded over 20,000 coronavirus cases so far, and most of those confirmed cases have recovered. But what measures have been put in place to ensure that, there isn't a surge in cases as campaigning starts?
Well, the Electoral Commission has said on numerous occasions in recent weeks that they are ready for the vote. They've put all the measures in place to secure all the necessary sanitary measures. They've also detailed that 35,000 security personnel will be deployed on the day of the vote, which will help in terms of not only security, but making sure that people adhere to the COVID regulations.
All right, then. Thank you so much, Leanne, for speaking to us on Network Africa. Well, let's head over to East Africa now, where in Somalia, representatives of some of the country's key international partners, including the UN and EU, have highlighted the importance of the federal government and federal member states working together for the good of all Somalis. The partners also encouraged Somalia's leaders to extend their cooperation further in areas such as the constitutional review and other processes that can help advance national priorities, democratic reforms, and essential freedoms.
In our meeting today with President Abdiaziz, we discussed the importance of continuing good relations between the federal government of Somalia and the federal member states. We are encouraged by the revitalization of the dialogue between the federal government and all of the federal member states. This has included the series of meetings in Dusamareb in recent months and the consultative meetings in Mogadishu in September, during which the agreement on the elections model was reached. We appreciate President Abdiaziz's leadership at many stages of this process. The results of those meetings demonstrated what can be achieved when Somalia's leaders come together in a spirit of consensus and collaboration for the good of the country. We urge the leaders to continue in this manner with the preparations for the national elections so that they are underpinned by transparency, fairness, and inclusivity.
Doctors in Sudan say at least 6 people have been killed and more than 20 others injured in protest in the port town of Suakin. The violence broke out following the sacking of the governor of neighboring Kassala state. A curfew has now been imposed in Suakin as well as in Port Sudan, where there have also been protests. Today is Global Hand Washing Day, a celebration which gains more prominence this year following campaigns that hand washing is one of the major ways to avert the spread of COVID-19. However, according to Chief of Water, Sanitation and Hygiene at UNICEF, there are other needs which should accompany basic access to water for hand washing.
Hand hygiene is one of the most popular campaigns at this time when the world is dealing with COVID-19. According to World Health Organization, the standard duration to wash hands would be the duration of singing Happy Birthday song twice. The procedure is in 11 steps, which include wet hands, apply soap, rub hands palm to palm, right palm over left dorsum, and vice versa, palm to palm with fingers interlaced, back of fingers to opposing palms, rotational rubbing of the left thumb and vice versa, rotational rubbing backwards and forward, rinse hands with water, dry thoroughly with a single-use towel, use towel to turn a faucet. While the process may seem time-consuming, public health advocate Dr. Chioma Onyedikachi-Wakama proposes that it is cheaper than the consequences of poor hand washing.
Some common dangers. Firstly, the health hazards of poor hand washing. It affects the health. It affects, it exposes not just the primary person, it exposes everyone around them and everyone who they come in contact with, to viruses, bacteria, even respiratory infections. when it comes to proper hand washing, we should understand that it just goes beyond your hands, because your hands come in contact with your mouth, your hands come in contact with surfaces. With your hands, you exchange money, you exchange things, and that passes from one person to another.
At the same time, Nigerians are still catching up with the need for proper hand washing. UNICEF is asking that other seemingly unconnected factors may be a challenge.
When it comes to sanitation, figures are also not very encouraging. We have almost 1/4 of the population practicing open defecation. When it comes to absolute terms, it's between 46 million and 47 million people out of an estimated 200 million people. And this puts Nigeria on the first spot when it comes to people practicing open defecation.
UNICEF places basic access to water at 70%, but many rural parts of the country still deal with unclean water. Ini John Mekwa, Channels Television News.
On that note, remember to wash your hands to keep COVID-19 away. And that's the program today. Thank you so much for watching. I'm Tenyola Shoboale.